I could feel very high.
It's a new day on the Enterprise, and we're off to visit a colony. The Paraagans are potential new friends, so we're dropping by to exchange pleasantries. They give us some instructions for how to approach the planet, and we follow them, though perhaps not well enough, as we appear to have accidentally set fire to the atmosphere and destroyed the settlement, along with several thousand colonists. We manage to get back to the Enterprise and try to figure out what the bloody hell just happened. Reed's convinced we followed their instructions, namely to close down certain engine gubbins, and that we have alarms and backups if this had failed. A check of shuttle logs shows the fire started right under us, but also confirms those engine gubbins were clamped down. Archer leaves everybody to keep checking things while he makes a very unpleasant phone call indeed. Admiral Forrest Kelly is, unsurprisingly, not overjoyed at us murderizing several thousand aliens. I mean, okay, their colony did have an explosive fog sitting over it as a result of their mining business, but setting it off is still considered rather rude. Knowing we followed instructions isn't going to help with the political fallout, not just with other Paraagans, but also back home on Earth as well. Recent developments have taken a toll on Archer's mood and T'Pol's concerned. Phlox has to explain to her that feeling bad about dead people is a natural reaction, and it's not likely to be improved by Archer receiving a call back from Admiral Forrest Kelly. He invites T'Pol and Tucker into his ready room afterwards for a chat. It's quite a short chat, as you don't need many words to say we're all going home. The powers on Earth have decided our mission should end, and we'll likely not have any more for quite a while. Tucker's furious, but Archer's accepted the situation. As far as he's concerned, it's already a done deal. The news is poorly received among the crew. Thoughts of what to do next are tempered somewhat by our new reputation as the crew who killed the shit out of a few thousand miners. T'Pol's trying to do something about that at least. She's bringing Archer a report from Reed about an unexpected science wibbly on the hull of our shuttle. Archer's not interested, largely because he feels responsible for buggering everything up, something likely to set Starfleet back decades. T'Pol thinks he should fight it just as she plans to, and that helps a little. Perhaps it's affecting him even more than he thought. He lies down that night and a few seconds later finds himself somewhere else entirely. To be specific, he's back on Earth. To be even more specific, he's back on Earth before the Enterprise was launched, yet still remembers all events to date. Well, post-date, I suppose, but you know what I mean. Archer's a little surprised to see the time pervert Daniels, and not least of which because the bugger's supposed to have been killed by Sulibos. He says that all happened, sort of, but he obviously got better afterwards, or before, perhaps. Either way, he's back again to stop more time fuckery. The time pervert Daniels has been looking at his records, you see, and as far as he can tell, the kaboom oopsie that killed several thousand people wasn't supposed to happen. That means somebody's being naughty with time again, so it's his job to straighten things out, and that means sharing a few spoilers with Archer. Whatever the time pervert Daniels had to share is worth acting on when Archer is returned to the Enterprise. Some instructions to Reed allow him to find a stealth gizmo hidden on our shuttle where we found the science wibbly earlier. This gizmo is designed to cause precisely what our engines were locked down to prevent, and it wasn't put there by us. Archer also has a series of unexplained orders for his staff. Hoshi needs to shut down our phones for a while, Tucker needs to organize some new tech, Reed needs to prepare us for a fight, and Travis needs to head back to the disaster site. The tech Tucker's building is way beyond his own understanding, so Archer shares where he got the data. If Tucker's surprised about a time-traveling corpse, he keeps it to himself. T'Pol and Hoshi learn about things too while they're dicking about with the stealth gizmo. It's Suliban in origin, and it's going to help us understand how their stuff works. We'll need to know that to build something that'll read the data storage that we're currently on our way to get. T'Pol's skeptical about all of this, but does it anyway. The last piece of the puzzle is something from the time pervert Daniels himself, well, his old quarters specifically. We locked his tech up after he got time murdered, but now we need to look through his database for information on a Suliban stealth ship. Reed notes a lot of other goodies inside there too, but is told to ignore them. Archer's already had enough experience with time fuckery to know we should leave it alone as much as possible. We're almost ready for whatever plan Archer has up his sleeve. The new tech is complete, Travis has been pointed at a star system near the buggered colony, and Reed knows what he needs to shoot at. Upon arriving at a moon, we learn the new tech we've built is an anti-stealth scanner. Such tech not being expected by the target allows us to get close enough to poop red at them, the result being we disable anything important. A single well-placed firework is enough to seal a couple of decks, according to Archer, which is handy as he, T'Pol and Tucker are going over there in a shuttle and want to meet as few opponents as possible. It's still more than they'd like, and getting where they want to go involves much pooping and a couple of stun grenades. They know what they're looking for at least, and inside an important-looking room they nick some discs and scarpa. Things get a bit hairy when they're surrounded, but Reed just shoots a bit more of the ship and kabooms the problem. They all make it back to the shuttle just before some more lads catch up. Brute force allows them to undock and spaces the pursuers before we bugger off back to the Enterprise. With all of that taken care of, we set a course for the Vulcan ship we were supposed to be meeting when we went AWOL. The journey to our new rendezvous is a chance to check those discs we pinched, and they show the Suliban stealth ship was at the kaboomed colony when we were. They even have pictures of the shuttle, which is unsurprising when they docked with it to leave their planet kabooming gizmo. A call to Admiral Forrest Kelly to share the news leaves him delighted, despite Archer refusing to say how he found out about all of this. Somebody who's not delighted is Mystery Time Lad. A report from Sulibos makes it clear we didn't figure all of this out on our own, so he's spared a punishment. Mystery Time Lad orders him to capture Archer but leave the Enterprise intact, and after being put in his place when he tries to argue, Sulibos agrees. Back on the Enterprise, Archer's trying to explain things to T'Pol in his ready room. This is made more difficult by her refusing to believe in time fuckery, but the results are undeniable. Their debate over temporal mechanics is halted by a call from the bridge. We're getting some odd science wibblies and technical problems, and that's enough for Archer to conclude something screwy's going on. The scanning tech we made gets deployed once more, revealing we are not alone. A call from Sulibos warns us not to do anything rash, and a whole shitload more ships appearing shows it's not a bluff. He has a deal for us, though, Archer, in exchange for the lives of everybody else on the Enterprise. Under the circumstances, Archer agrees to the deal. Somebody else does not agree to the deal, though, as, while making his way to the docked Suliban ship, Archer steps out of a lift to find himself in a very bollocksed-up corridor indeed. This is a problem, as Sulibos calls back to complain about Archer not keeping his word, and our scans show he's no longer on the Enterprise. Sulibos is disinclined to believe that he's just vanished for obvious reasons. He orders our pursuers to target their weapons on the Enterprise, which is directly against the instructions of Mystery Time Lad, but maybe he thinks he can make some shit up. That's not our problem right now, as we switch to Archer looking out of a shattered window onto an equally shattered landscape. This, says the time pervert Daniels, was not how things looked a little while back. That was when his bosses ordered him to retrieve Archer and bring him here for safekeeping, with here being an undisclosed location roughly 900 years into the future. Obviously, whoever gave that order has made a bit of a boo-boo. Whatever change in the timeline happened as a result caused the devastation we can see. And that's a double boo-boo, because among the things that are now royally stuffed are the time gizmos to send Archer back. But we'll have to wait and see how it all turns out, as we're told the story is to be continued. It's the season finale, and that means we have to remember that we do, in fact, have an ongoing storyline to address occasionally. I am, of course, being a little facetious here, as we've had a couple of episodes retouching the temporal Cold War plot launched in the season premiere. One of those was more focused on how that ongoing story is affecting those caught within its influence, but even that still has value in establishing context. Anywho, the Enterprise, or perhaps more specifically Captain Archer, is once again in the middle of time shenanigans. This round was to frame us for an accident, presumably with the intent of delaying Starfleet, as that was going to be the primary consequence. We don't know this for certain, of course, but it seems the most likely, as the subsequent intervention of the time pervert Daniels was an unexpected turn of events based on the reactions of Sulibos and Mystery Time Lad. And where does all of this leave us? Well, buggered, to be blunt. The 31st century time cops aren't quite as good at this as they thought, and now it's all turned to shit. That leaves us with more than a few questions on how all of this stuff fits together, but my attitude towards time travel in Trek is well recorded by this point. If it's a choice between explaining everything or adopting the Doctor Who approach of ignoring it and just having fun, I'll take the jelly babies every time. Besides, we'll have more data to work with after Part 2, so let's leave all of that until then. Instead, we'll focus on what we know for certain. Getting time murdered was not sufficient for the time pervert Daniels to stay dead. If you're going to bring a character back, I suppose the one that exists in a state of temporal goofiness is probably a safe choice. Timey-wimey stuff is the ultimate Uno reverse card, which is also the main reason I've often viewed such stories through my skepticism goggles. It's a useful choice in this instance, though. Nobody's saying the previous stuff never happened, which banishes that big red reset button I so despise, and having an allied faction involved in the temporal Cold War is narratively useful. Without something like this to help balance the scales, every story would have us constantly outgunned by a superior enemy. This way we get a bit of variety, as well as access to some tech MacGuffins if the people in charge write themselves into a corner. While we're talking about the time pervert Daniels, I should point out there are a few continuity issues with his quarters on the Enterprise. The end of the episode Cold Front had us locking his room so nobody could dick about with the contents. Despite this, we have a few inconsistencies between how it looked then and what we find when we open it now. Somebody matched the picture on the wall, so that's a plus, but the wall panels themselves no longer have labels in the corners of them. Perhaps more curiously, the room has grown a new mirror. I'm assuming the mirror was part of the original recorded plans for the room, but removed during filming in Cold Front because the camera was high enough to be visible. The scene is shot lower in this episode, and thus not a problem. At a guess, whoever decided to remove the mirror when filming Cold Front didn't bother to make a note of it. When the episode involved the owner of that room getting killed, it probably felt like a safe bet. There are some changes to what looks like a magnetic noteboard on the wall as well, but we never really saw that in detail. I will give some points to whoever hung clothes from the corner post of the bed, though. That's the sort of thing I'd have expected to be missed. Staying on the topic of the time pervert Daniels yet again, we see him in this episode wearing a jumpsuit of some kind. Whilst this might simply be the fashion of the 31st century, let's go ahead and suggest it's probably related to his job of time cop. I mention it here because the outfit is made of a ribbed material or incorporates ribbing into it, and that bears similarities to accent pieces on the clothing for members of the Cabal. Maybe that similarity is unintentional, or maybe it was a deliberate design choice to tie these factions together. If it's the latter, we get to have a play with thinking about why. My headcanon is that the tubing might have a use in temporal shenanigans, similar to how a Faraday cage can insulate the contents against some forms of EM radiation. Perhaps the fact that the time pervert Daniels has greater personal interaction with temporal shenanigans explains why his is more complete. I think we'll end today's video on a tangential observation I made. Those of you paying very close attention to the dialogue when you watched this episode may have noted that the word Cabal does not feature a single time. Everybody in this story has resorted to using the term Suliban for everything, including how they describe the enemy, despite what Archer learned in an internment camp about the species as a whole being oppressed based on the actions of the Cabal. We were quick to judge the Tandarans once we understood the difference, seeing the injustice of a whole people being punished for the behavior of a single faction, and yet here we are, just a few episodes later, failing to make any distinction ourselves. That the writers likely did this unintentionally is just another aspect of the same point. Perhaps we should consider it an accidental lesson on the insidiousness of biases and how even the most reasonable of people are not immune to this effect. End of episode, though before we move on to the credits skit, there's an announcement. For those who missed the post on the channel a few days ago, we're cutting down to a 1 video a week schedule. If you're a patron, you've got a video there explaining why in more detail, but long story short, the current schedule leaves me no room to deal with the unexpected, and the unexpected is what life's thrown at me. We're not going anywhere, but we are slowing down a bit. Sorry. On the plus side, this will give me some more time to work on the unusual stuff I've wanted to do for a while. You won't be getting 2 episodes a week, but you might start seeing the odd weird thing now and again. End of announcement.
Are we ready then?
About as ready as we're going to get.
Everybody on standby just in case?
It'll kick off if we give the signal.
Right then, time to go and meet the real captain of this ship. So, you're the power behind the throne then. Fair play to your son, cozying up to the captain's a smart call. Nothing to say? Well, I can understand that. You want to see why we're here before you respond. Long story short, same thing as you, mate. How do you feel about a power-sharing agreement? You know, a 4 legs good, 2 legs bad kind of thing. You what, mate? Oh, I see how it is. You want us to think you're just a normal dog, not up for a change in the status quo, eh?
Space dog?
Well, I won't stand for it. We've as much right to lead as you.
Space dog.
I'm not falling for it. If you think I'm going to be hoodwinked by such a blatantly obvious... I'm just shouting at a normal dog, aren't I?
Yes, you are.
Bollocks.